Still trying to process everything you told me. The Empire was defeated.
Battle of Endor.
The Emperor died.
That's what people say.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
You people must be out your damn mind.
There's a new republic.
We know that cloning can duplicate an individual from a single genetic strand.
You know, I was beginning to think we'd never find you.
Can we just go back, please? Can we just cut? Can we just cut?
No, really, just
No, really, Sam, please.
It's complicated.
Well, we could talk about something else, I guess.
fuck me.
Ahsoka took me on.
Nice.
Really?
Go on.
No, that's great. Makes sense, of course.
You're listening to Duck Dust FM. The coveted penultimate episode. The episode, in the traditional non-Disney sense, that serves as the final hook before the big payoff in the finale, where the stakes are raised to their absolute peak, the dog shit filler is in the rearview mirror, and the audience is teed up for another exciting conclusion.
That's okay.
I did mention who makes this show, right? So episode 7 begins surprisingly with the best scene of the episode, in a 3-second establishing shot of Coruscant, before we cut to Hera on trial in a Kangaroo Galactic Republic court for going after Thrawn, when she was specifically told to sit back and do as much of her job as her face does emoting. Senator-designated Dick tells her that her account of the events read like a children's fairy tale with stories of star maps, space whales, Jedi, fake Jedi, and so on, but stops short of saying it sounds like a child wrote it in order to be eligible to appear in the finale. Stepping in to assist Hera, Asian Santa says, "Hey, what about the Mando Season 3 finale? That happened, right? You guys watched to the end, right?" Unfortunately, some of us did.
Din Grogu.
This is the way. This is the way.
But it's given the same amount of in-universe recognition as the giant frozen celestial from Eternals. So now that 4 minutes have passed without a soulless cameo, and the Rebels character bench and invested audience for this show is starting to look like an athletics home game, a beloved legacy heavy hitter from the original trilogy and C-3PO is brought in to member bury you at least as far as the opening credits. We then find ourselves on board Ahsoka's trans-dimensional whale Amtrak, where she tries to complete her training 30 years later with the CGI hologram of Anakin Shakur Walker. While they're training, he name drops more member berries to get you to the next scene in what seems to be a common tactic in this show's writing. For Huang comes in and says that he checked the whale's speedometer and it showed that they were slowing down to land. He also makes the best point of the episode and says that the odds that they come out exactly where they want to be are astronomical. Almost as astronomical as the odds of successfully navigating an asteroid field, or minefield in this case.
The possibility of successfully navigating an asteroid field is approximately 3,720 to 1.
Never tell me the odds.
Or 2. So while that happens, Thrawn starts to go all art of war on Ahsoka because he discovers she is Anakin's former Padawan and knows she'll fight in the most suicidally reckless way imaginable, but that could be interesting and develop character. So we then go to Ezra and Sabine going on a nice romantic ball carriage ride where they catch up in a horrendously written and acted scene where Sabine explains to Ezra that she and Ahsoka have spent all this time alone together playing with lightsabers and didn't even film it for a tracking improvement.
Where is Ahsoka? Coming? That's complicated.
All of a sudden, the two best characters show up to face off, but Ray Stevenson pulls a Rick Sanchez and is like, "You got this, I'm gonna take 5.
Blow him up. I'm gonna go take a shit.
Ezra and his band of traveling hermit crab people then slingshot the bandits like they've never been slingshot, but are eventually forced to form a protective circle. Sabine surprisingly offers Ezra his lightsaber back, and he's like, "Nah, I have the Force."
Yeah.
Okay then. Ahsoka meanwhile tries to do the opposite of her cool Siege of Mandalore jump out of the ship, and instead does the majestic move of falling with style and eating CGI shit. Sometimes it's easier to go higher and use a good old-fashioned parachute.
Break your back up, who's your primary? I want you to pull the blue. I need you to pull it really hard. Not now, we're on the plane, you dumbass. What?
Coincidentally, Ahsoka fell right where Ray Stevenson was, waiting for his Uber Eats to arrive, and since his courier is on a bicycle, decides to have a brief lightsaber duel with Ahsoka that was about as well choreographed as the Leia chase from Kenobi. They fight for a minute, but Huang distracts Balin while Ahsoka steals his Wendy's 4x4 and fucks off to find Ezra and Sabine, who are now surrounded by Imperial cosplayers and Shin, who is about to kill them. But Ezra is like, wait ladies, I know a way we can solve all of this with at least one of us ending up happy. But Shin doesn't buy it, but she magically doesn't have to, because Ahsoka magically shows up and helps out. Thrawn's Imperial forces have finished charging their Star Destroyer, so he orders them back to the ship, and Shin starts to shin her pants at the fact that her master abandoned her and is now about to be left behind, almost turning good for a second, but eventually runs away. Then finally Ahsoka and Ezra reunite like they haven't seen each other since the previous Tuesday, and Ezra is like, "Meaty phone home now?" And that's it. The episode's over.
Harry?
What the fuck? I know one of my go-to criticisms of these type of copy and paste Disney shows is that they are so predictable and devoid of creativity that they've become a parody of themselves, but this episode unfortunately proves my point once more. Every season or series starts off with a promise of solid action, massive payoffs, or being the best thing Disney has put out to draw people in, and an unhealthy dose of fanbait to establish legitimacy, but they all seem to follow the same formula that follows something like this. The most effort gets put towards the opening episode, then filler, side quests, more filler, maybe some more filler on top of that, until something in the plot actually has to happen, which normally would occur at or before the point we find ourselves now in Ahsoka. Only in the more recent shows, the point in the series where something actually has to happen keeps getting pushed back farther and farther, until now it's all the way in the finale, where so little substantive setup has happened, we're not even sure what the little setup we got was for. Take for instance an increasingly similar parallel to Mando Season 3, where the 7th episode kicked off with the retaking of Mandalore because the whole Din redemption arc was done within 2 episodes. In that penultimate episode, a large chunk of the time is spent killing time watching Baby Yoda dick around and get his Taika Waititi droid suit and some Bo-Katan monologues. But when they try to do some character work and actual drama, what happens?
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
In short, we're set up for the finale about as well as an anti-Lee Harvey Oswald, and the case is the same here, but with this week's episode of Ahsoka. But why does it have to be like this? How does the audience benefit from getting 20 combined minutes of decent content each season? And how do people keep getting tricked into thinking that this one is going to be different than the last one?
Well, that's a real question, isn't it? Why? The how and the who is just scenery for the public. Oswald, Ruby, Cuba.
It's a good time.
Keeps them guessing like some kind of parlor game, prevents them from asking the most important question, why?
We of course know the answer, but we can't help but wonder what it could possibly take for the rest of us to stop and ask the same thing.
Well, it is my programming and my pleasure to be of service.
2 out of 10. The signature lack of effort and respect for the audience was on full display this week and will surely remain in the finale, where we will be haphazardly teed up for the Mando movie. I predict a cameo at some point, because that's the only play in Disney's playbook, but don't expect any major payoff of any kind, because that would imply you were expected to care, and something was actually set up in the first place. Fucking like and subscribe for duck's sake.
The Duke.